And from the Post Chicken and Beer in downtown Boulder, a victory to talk about. 20-13, the Buffaloes knock off the Cal Golden Bears last weekend on Family Weekend. Electric atmosphere, by the way, at Folsom Field. Now we get set to take to the road. The Buffs will be in Corvallis, Oregon on Saturday evening. That is I'm going to remind myself, 6 o'clock Mountain Time game, 5 o'clock there local. Gary and I and Jeff Campbell, Soup, is going to join us this week. We're going to hit there at 4 o'clock with the Buffalo Stampede pregame show. And still got a smile on your face, feeling good. But that was a lot of fun last week. And Mike, I thought the fan turnout and the atmosphere that you guys created at stadium on Saturday was unbelievable. Obviously, it's always great when it turns out to be a victory.
Yeah, I can't speak enough about the support that we felt, the student section, that really, just really all of Buff Nation coming to really have our backs in a tough time. And I really wanted for our football team to personify what we talked about in the bye week, which is just playing the game with a ton of joy, with our hair on fire on defense, and then making big plays offensively when we needed to. And it was a special day that I think all of us remember. But it's just one Saturday, and we're planning on having a few more exciting Saturdays.
But when you had a 2-week run up, obviously, to that game coming off the bye week, and you're preaching a different message, you're preaching a different kind of approach, if you will. And then to go out and ultimately, and it wasn't an easy game either, because it was back and forth and very tough, got to go to overtime. And then to have the victory come out of that thing, well, that's got to give you some willing, I think, students kind of moving forward.
No, this week in practice was just complete buy-in, and not just from the players that went out and experienced the success themselves on the field, but even just the guys that are practice-type squad players, the scout teams, just a great level of buy-in and energy this week in practice. And anytime you can win and back the process, I think the process gets even better. And that's what this week's been about is we got to continue to focus on our process really over the outcome. And if that process keeps on getting better and better week in and week out, we got to trust that those outcomes are going to be what we want them to be.
Start on the defensive side of the ball. So we well know what the Buffs' defensive numbers had been. What you guys did there, holding Cal to 35 yards rushing, right around 300 yards total of offense. The team was really flying around. There's great energy. You guys were moving around a little bit, kind of changed things a little bit.
Yeah, and I think we're going to change up again on Saturday.
There you go.
We do know that there was a natural bump with having a brand new scheme. I know as an offensive coordinator myself, when you don't know what to game plan against as an offensive guy, that's challenging, because a lot of your favorite runs and even your shot plays in the pass game, they're look specific, and when you have no looks to be able to go off of, that's a challenge. So we knew that we were going to get a good bump, but really it was about the want to, how we played, all those things that I think really ultimately led to what we did defensively. But we also know, like myself and Gerald Chapman and the defensive staff, we've gotten together and talked about even some new tweaks and nuances for a really good Oregon State team that's going to try to run the ball at will at you. So, really pleased with the defensive effort. And like I said, the offense doing what we needed to do to win a football game.
You moved a few guys around, too, in different positions. That kind of energizes the individual, doesn't it?
It did, and that was a result of a lot of those one-on-one meetings that I had the Monday after, Coach Durrell was let go, and I wanted to hear from the players where they felt most comfortable. Robert Barnes being moved from an inside backer to now playing this newly created position in our defense called the star. That's a good position to be named, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
And he played the most snaps that he's played since he's been at CU, had his most production. And then I felt like it got, some of our inside backers, namely Josh Chandler-Samito, a chance to really get into that flow. And you see him make 3.5 tackles for loss in that game. So just moving some guys around. Tyron Taylor now playing safety. Yep. Because we moved Robert Barnes to what Tyron Taylor was doing, I think it's going to pay dividends, because we're playing a big, heavy set, multiple tight end team this week against Oregon State.
Barnes, I think he was a safety early in his career, wasn't he?
Yep, and that's I was watching all fall camp and even spring ball, and it's like he looks like he's a better space player than an in-the-box player.
Right.
But he's a good blitzer off the edge. He's a good cover player. So you're kind of using his size, his length, and putting it in a different position. And I think we saw a major increase in his effectiveness out there.
Terminology in football always fascinates me, right? Every team's got different, nomenclature. So what exactly would a star be? Is that kind of a hybrid linebacker?
It is.
safety?
So now it's funny. So it used to be, defensive line was 4 down linemen and then Sam, Mike, Will.
Yes.
Well, everybody's gone to 10 personnel and 11 personnel, which is basically either no tight ends with 1 running back or 1 tight end, 1 running back. So defenses nowadays are playing much more what's called nickel. Nickel is more of a true defensive back, like a backup corner or backup safety like Tyron Taylor, and playing him as a full-time Sam linebacker. Right. Well, now what we're doing is we're saying, okay, we're going to go back to the old school way, and instead of having a nickel who's 185 pounds, we're going to play with a big nickel who's 228 pounds in Robert Barnes. So we call that the star.
Okay. So
we have a nickel and a star, and it's really just an outside backer term.
And every week when you get ready for a ball game, everyone's got their own, like I said, terminology in terms of how they kind of label things. Let's go to the overtime. If I would, right after the throw from J.T. Shrout to Montana Lemonious Craig, if I would have said, Coach, how much you want to bet that's a catch or not a catch? How much would you put down on that?
I mean, I looked away and was starting. I was calling for the field goal team,
right,
so,
like the rest of us, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was lobbying for a little push off.
Yes.
Looked around, and really after 10 seconds, if you see no yellow hankies on the field, it's over. So move on to the next play. Let's kick a field goal. Let's get a stop and win the game. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, Shannon Turley grabs my shoulder, kind of, hey, I think there's a shot. And I was like, get out of here, man. There's no way.
Thinking about what?
Yeah, and so I looked up at the replay board on Buff Vision, and sure enough, I was like, I think this thing's going to count.
Yeah.
And saw it over and over. And, I'll be honest, in my career, I feel like not many of those have been overturned. But I do believe that we get breaks because of how we went about our business. Right. I think we played with such belief, with such spirit. And you create those types of breaks. And Montana just made an incredible play. And I was mad at JT. I thought the ball was thrown out of bounds.
Right.
So
turned out to be a great throw.
Yeah, I was like, man, what a great pass. So,
those kind of things too. When it's called one way, to overturn it.
Yes.
Right. It's one thing if they confirm the call. It's another thing to overturn it. Now you and I were talking before we went on here about how impressed you were with what Montana did during that ball game, and we'll talk about Deion Smith. Montana had a role in Deion's injury out there, and for him to kind of wash that off, thinking I might have been responsible for a guy getting seriously hurt, says something about him.
Yeah, it does. I mean, he's just growing up and before our eyes. I mean, I know one of your famous calls last year about the Buffaloes are growing up before our very eyes. Right, it's on our recruiting highlight tape. Okay. So that was Montana's big catch last season. But, Montana is truly growing up and becoming a leader. And, it's funny, Coach Patterson talked about we didn't have a bunch of stuff designed to go to Montana. Right. Montana just played great football and then just kept getting more of a rhythm. And I think JT has a great feel and trust with Montana. They have a great, camaraderie and relationship. And they spent a lot of time in the offseason throwing together. So those things just kind of materialized. But what I was most impressed with and pleased with, that was a scary scene with Deion.
It was.
And it was a missed block. And football's going to have missed blocks. You're going to have mistakes. You're going to have missed assignments. But for Montana to respond to that situation with his brother, one of his closest friends, being down and pulled off on a stretcher, and go out and just play inspired, confident football, it just shows a lot about who Montana is and who he's becoming.
Yeah, that's part of, when you're coach, you coach them for the physical, but you also attend to the mental and how strong you got to be between the ears to be a great player as well, correct?
No doubt. And I think that's when we keep talking over the course of the last 3 weeks about process. Yeah. I think everybody wants to say, hey, go get a win. Hey, we got to win this week. You got to go get a win. Well, if that's all you're concerned with, then what happens for those other 6 days of preparation between Saturdays? And I think that has a lot to do with how our process is, even in practice, create scenarios in practice where, players are going to fail. Create that chaos, as I talked about, with music going, all kinds of competitive scenarios. And I want them to failing on the practice field so that they can learn then to respond. And I think Montana really took to that message of process, response, and then go apply it on Saturdays.
Is it hard? I just saw and I'm trying to remember who it was. I saw a video here the last 3 or 4 weeks of an NFL player, Super Bowl winning player, talking about the process and the little things. Because we think about just, okay, you go to practice and you deal with what's there. He was talking about the grander scheme of things, how you deal with everything in your life and how that's part of your process to win football games.
Was that the kicker? It was a great video. I think it was the Giants kicker, I believe.
It might have been.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. It's quite a while ago now. But the point being, is that one of the hardest lessons to help a young man understand about the grander scheme of the smaller goal, if you will?
Yeah, it is. And a lot of times you don't have a chance to really respond as a young player until you actually fail. Right. And I think that's offensively what we've been experiencing is a lot of growth with a ton of freshmen and redshirt freshmen playing for us.
Sure.
They're growing up each and every day, on Saturdays and then during the weeks. And I look at even a player like Owen McCown. I mean, he gets here in June. Doesn't even have a true offseason and thrust into a starting role.
Right.
And he's got to manage his class schedule. He's got to manage exams. That's not easy to do. And meanwhile, you're playing against Pac-12 opponents on the road, and that's a challenge for these players. And they just keep getting those experiences and responding to what adversity comes their way.
Speaking of the quarterback situation, we'll have Mike talk about that on the other side of a break. I will tell you that our program is brought to us by Hilton's on Canyon. You're coming to Boulder for game day, stay at the Hilton's on Canyon, the official hotel of Colorado Athletics. It's the Buffs on the road against Oregon State. Still to come, by the way, we got, our special teams coordinator and kicker Cole Becker is going to join us as well here at the program as we come to you from the Post Chicken and Beer in downtown Boulder. Back more with Mike Sanford after this. This is Colorado football from Learfield. Buffs Primetime is brought to us by the Post Chicken and Beer with 7 Colorado Front Range locations. The Post brews delicious award-winning beers, fries up the crispiest, juiciest hot chicken around. Fried chicken and beer go together like black and gold football. Stop by the Post for all your game time provisions. And for next week's show, we'll be out here on Thursday once again from 12:30 to 1:30. Colorado will get set next week to take on Arizona State at home next week. Got Oregon State this week on the road as we continue with interim head coach Mike Sanford. Got Chris Ryder coming up, special teams coordinator. We got Cole Becker, the kicker, as well. Hey, before we get to the quarterbacks, there was a play at the end of that game. Montana's play was so spectacular. I think it takes a lot of the attention, right? What Trevor Woods did, jarring that ball loose, would look to be a touchdown for Cal last week, I thought was a great play that illustrates that idea of just never giving up in a play, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think we always talk about playing the play longer. Play the play longer on both sides of the ball. And frankly, Starling from Cal didn't play the play long enough.
He's kind of nonchalant,
very nonchalant. Yeah. Ball's coming.
Gonna catch it, gonna win.
And then all of a sudden, here comes a heat-sinking missile in the form of number 43, and just what an incredible play. And it just illustrates everything that we're talking about in terms of just how you play everything. And Trevor Woods, I think he's been that the whole year. And now he's got a couple more comrades that are coming to swarm the ball carriers and receivers.
When you see a guy like Montana make that catch, or Trevor make that kind of play, or anybody else make a signature play, you see a guy that kind of grows a little bit from that?
Absolutely. Confidence. You see them carry themselves differently around the building. Their voice and leadership starts to increase. I've seen Trevor looks like a different player this week. Right. And he's always been a really good player, but even just some of the stuff that he says at practice now, it just carries more weight when it's in a win. He's made great plays throughout the course of the year, but in a victory where people realize that how he plays the game, it actually tangibly resulted in a victory with a game-saving play.
Yeah, awesome. All right, quarterback. You have said repeatedly this week that Owen didn't come out because of his play. JT came in, played very well, and so there have been questions about this week. You've kind of got some news in terms of who's starting on Saturday.
Yeah, so, Owen, he's our starting quarterback, and we named him the starting quarterback. However, he came out because he was banged up. And I think it was a accumulation of playing, as a true freshman, in back-to-back, conference ball games. And, so he didn't progress quickly enough for us to feel like he's ready to play. So we're going to start JT, and he's ready to play. He's earned the confidence of his teammates. I feel like he himself is standing a little bit taller as well because of the heroics that he played, not just on the throw to Montana, but even that third down conversion, to march the ball down the field. I'm seeing a lot of growth in JT. He's a guy that I have a lot of belief in. I know his teammates have a lot of belief in, and I think he's got broad shoulders to shoulder the challenge of us getting our first real road win since 2019. With fans in the crowd. It'll still be half of fans in the crowd with the construction at Reser Stadium. But I'm really excited to watch JT go lead us as a football team.
Well, and you've got a great situation here. You got a couple of really intriguing quarterbacks, the two of them, right? And although you've said Owen's the starter, you know that if anybody goes down, you got another guy right there. And I think that old concept about competition and raising old boats, that kind of thing between these two.
No, it is, and they have a great relationship. When Owen came in June, I thought that JT himself really kind of took a mentorship type role, and And obviously that's disappointing when the mentee ends up taking over the role of of the starting position for the mentor. But the way that JT has responded, once again that word keeps coming up, but responded to Owen being the starter. JT's prepared like he's the starter throughout the course of the last 3-4 weeks, and that's when I looked at Owen dinged up on the sideline, and then I saw JT standing there tall, holding his helmet in his hand, like, hey, I'm ready to go, man. And I knew it. I knew he was ready to go, and he's not just because he looked like he was ready to go, but because of how he had prepared really over the course of the last 4 weeks in a disappointing time for him. So he's going to go play great football for us on Saturday, and I told the team today they're really excited. They were cheering. Because they know that his journey hasn't been even. There's been a lot of ups and downs, and to me the path to success isn't linear. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and he's been. I think he's shown what this team's all about, and it's about responding to adversity.
When you're a coach and you're trying to learn your players and figure them out, do you closely watch a guy when things don't go? So JT, has to sit. Owen gets a start. Do you watch JT to see what he's made of and how he responds in terms of how you approach him moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, truly, I watch everything. Right. I think body language, not just in football, but in so many different aspects of life. Right. And it tells you so much about investment and buy-in. JT was very disappointed, I'd say for 48 hours when we decided to go with Owen as a starter after the Minnesota game. And not only do I just evaluate the body language, but I want to make sure I have those one-on-one conversations with JT. And we had that conversation. He responded incredibly well and just continued to respond. That's the hardest thing. Is it's easy to have one day where you show I'm ready to play, but to do it, practice after practice over the course of really a month. It speaks to who he is and his character, and to be candid, I mean, that's one thing, that played a massive role in why I put JT in that position, was because of how his body language and his response, it shows belief and trust that the team's going to have in him to go out there and execute and win a football game.
One more quarterback note. You announced on Tuesday at your press conference, too, that Brenda Lewis was jumping in the portal. And I know you're disappointed but supportive of him and kind of what his decision is. Yeah,
2 weeks ago I said that everything we were going to do is going to be about these players, about what's in their best interest. I think B-Lou did need he needed a fresh start. A fresh start in where he goes and plays. We've had these ongoing conversations for weeks, and obviously he goes from being the starting quarterback and, obviously you look at the game on Saturday. I mean, he's the third string quarterback. Yeah. He wants to go start, and he believes he's a quarterback, and I want to support him in that. So we had a great conversation. There was no hard feelings at all. Our team loves him. I personally love him. He's part of even my family, and so we'll continue to support him going forward. And, and I know he's got a bright future ahead.
All right, let's start talking about Oregon State. Again, that's a 6 o'clock Mountain Time game on Saturday. Gary and I and Soup are going to hit the air at 4 o'clock with a pregame show from Reser Stadium. When I've watched them this season, the word tough comes up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, that's you go up to Corvallis, you're going to play in some weather.
Yes.
Inevitably, it's
sounds like it's going to rain too. By the way,
yeah, we're expecting some rain. Luckily, we've had a chance to not only play in some rain this year, but we had some fun this week with some wet ball drill. I think I went through about 16 different Gatorade bottles just spraying the ball. I was actually spraying the players as they're waiting for the snap to come. So I think we'll handle the elements well. They're very physical. They held USC to 17 points. Yeah. Their offense is going to try to run the football with multiple tight ends, a fullback. Their Wildcat quarterback, fullback / linebacker, number 12 is somebody you got to have your eyes on. But you can tell this is an Oregon State team that's kind of built in that early 2000s model of Oregon State teams, which is all built around toughness, running the football, play action shots, and playing really good sound defense.
You said offensively, kind of think of the Denver Broncos back during the Super Bowl years, right? That zone blocking scheme, and that's kind of what they run offensively?
Yeah, a lot of outside zone stretch play, with the fullback. They're under center a lot more than they probably were. Brian Lindgren's a guy that is definitely, known to the CU community.
Yep.
Great guy, great coach, but you can tell that a lot of their offensive identity really does come from Jonathan Smith's background as a quarterback, at Oregon State and playing under Mike Riley. It has that feel of, run the rock, make them, you have to stop the run, and then they want to get the young quarterback who's playing in rhythm. With the bootlegs and all the play action stuff off of the run game.
I know that coaching fraternity is an awful small world. You know Jonathan?
I do.
Well?
Yeah, I do. So my dad and Mike Riley were together together on 2 different staffs, both at USC and the San Diego Chargers. Back when they actually shared an office at SC. So Jonathan Smith was his quarterback, his protege, and Jonathan would actually come and hang out at Chargers practice when I was a son of a coach and just hanging around as a coach's kid. So I've known Jonathan for some time. He also has a similar mentor in Chris Peterson, him working for Coach Pete both at Boise State. I followed Jonathan Smith at Boise State. I was the coordinator the year after he left as a quarterback coach. So lots of commonality.
The running back room that they have, Fenwick, Martinez, you mentioned Jam Griffin, number 8. Coaches always refer to the 8. So 5, 6, and 8.
Yep,
got those guys out there. It seems to me they're kind of just one's about as good as the other, and they just keep running them out there after you, right?
Yeah, they want to keep a rotation going. It's not like the true old school Oregon State when they had Steven Jackson, carrying the ball 35 to 40 times a game. They want to keep their guys fresh. They're physical runners. Number 8's extremely physical. They'll use him, as a lead blocker for some of the quarterback run game with number 12 involved. And then 6 and 5 both have speed. So, we have to smother the ball carrier in the backfield. That's going to be the name of the game. We have to change up our picture. They have some evidence of what we're going to do defensively. Well, we got to make sure that there's some change-ups, and we can't just, line up exactly how we played against Cal. There's got to be some nuances.
Lastly here, Oregon State defensively, what do you see on that side of the ball?
Just sound football, good football, good defensive line play. I think just all 11 play very well together in their scheme. They play hard. That's the one thing that we see. They're maybe not like, top 2 or 3 most athletic defenses or fast defenses in our conference, but I'd say top to bottom as sound of a defenses we'll see. And frankly, I thought Cal going into our game, really -1 game. I mean, they played very similar football, holding people to roughly 14, 17 points. That's really what Oregon State's been. But I'm looking forward to the challenge for our offense. I think the youth that we've had is starting to grow up. You're starting to see it click. I thought Coach Patterson did a really good job making adjustments in the second half and in the overtime. I think this is one of those games that we got to continue to show our growth offensively and go win a game on offense.
I like it. Great opportunity on Saturday night. Again, that's a 6 o'clock Mountain Time game. The Buffs and the Beavers in Corvallis. Mike, good luck.
Hey, appreciate it, Mark.
All right. Mike Sanford, head coach of the Buffaloes. They take on OSU on Saturday at Research Stadium in Corvallis. 4 o'clock pregame, 6 o'clock with the kickoff. Chris Ryder, the special teams coordinator, is going to join us next as we continue here on Buffs Prime Time from the Post Chicken and Beer in downtown Boulder. This is Colorado football from Learfield. Back on Buffs Prime Time here at the Post Chicken and Beer in downtown Boulder. Somebody was handing me a grandchild here. Where was going on the air. Voice of the Bus, Mark Johnson. Chris Ryder, the defensive coordinator. I beg your pardon, the special teams coordinator. I gave you a little promotion there, right?
I like it.
Yeah.
More you can do.
There you go. Hey, Buffs fans, looking for a place to cheer on the Buffaloes? Join the Buff Nation at the official CU Watch Party locations in Colorado, the Schoolhouse in Arvada, and Blake Street Tavern in Denver. Talking special teams with the special teams coordinator here for the Buffaloes. Overall, you felt pretty good about what you guys have done so far this season?
We're progressing. We're where we need to be.
Right.
We're committed to the process of things, right? So we're seeing development of a lot of guys. We were able to play 5 guys this last week who hadn't played before.
Okay.
Austin Dahlke. Mac Willis, in his transformation, is now a DB special teams player, was playing on the punt return unit.
Okay.
Trey Ortega, Thomas Notriani, Caden Robertson. A lot of guys, program guys, been around, doing things right, earning the right to go out there and play. I like where we're at. I like the energy that the guys are playing with, and I'm excited about continuing to progress with them.
When people think of special teams coordinator, they think of punter and kicker, right?
That's
and there's so much more to it. That's what everyone thinks about. Got to take us through an average day in practice about what kind of you're working with the guys on and how that works out beyond the specialists.
First and foremost, I am a shepherd. Okay? We've got 110 guys on the roster.
Yeah.
When a special teams period happens, I'm coordinate where everybody's got to go.
Okay.
So that's my primary role when we get out there at practice. But, on a day-to-day basis with the specialists, we work a lot of drill work. The most important thing for our punters, and people probably don't know this, how you catch the ball.
Really?
With your footwork before the punt. We wear out the jugs probably more than any position group on the team, mostly because we have the time to do it.
Now, everyone just thinks, okay, they catch it and kick it. There's a lot more to it.
You know what? You've got a limited volume of reps in that leg on a day-to-day basis, and to maximize your time, maximize efficiency of what you're doing, we can do a lot of work around punting that doesn't necessarily, or kicking that doesn't necessarily tax you. So footwork, catching the ball for punters, long snappers working on footwork and protection. Kickers working steps on kickoffs and their field goal steps in operation. At the end of the day, everything, eye placement, hands, feet, hip bend, all that's how you play the game, is it, whether you're on offense, defense, special teams, whatever. So you got to limit the reps that you fully kick, kind of like you would limit the reps of full tackle in practice. But you build around all of the other things so that you can develop that process.
Like a pitcher, you don't want to wear the arm out, right?
That's exactly right. Pitcher, golfer, a specialist in those sense. It's all kind of the same mental thought around how you build with it.
Okay, so explain to us. What is it when you talk about the key to catching the ball when you're a punter? What are we talking about?
You know what? If he can catch the ball in a similar location every single time, if he can lock his elbows all the way out and catch the ball away from him and create less variability in how he's catching the ball, then his footwork can vary. A great drop, which is, most of the time the indicator of a great punt is where the ball is being dropped from and where it ends up at the contact point on the foot. He's got leg talent. All the guys have leg talent. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. But the variability around the placement of the football is really what's going to dictate whether it's a productive, solid kick or not.
So what we're talking about is lessening the motion, right?
Correct.
If you can catch it in the right position, now you're taking one variable out of what you've got.
100%. The more we can recreate the exact same process around the action, the more predictable result we can create that can be a successful result.
Right. When you get a punt that's got great hang time, allows the coverage to get down and do its job, compared to or versus one that's – I used to work with Dick McPherson, the legendary coach years ago. He used to call that low punt the boomerang punt, right? It goes out and comes back really fast.
Yeah. The missile.
Yeah, exactly. So what's the variable there? Just the drop point?
Usually it's a drop point. In our particular situation with Trent right now, sometimes if his footwork gets long, that ball gets out extended from him. Now his foot's chasing the ball, and then it can come off a little bit low. Yeah. If we can keep the footwork a little bit more compact and keep the arm in there and the ball's dropping straighter, he can get proper contact on the foot, and you can hit the ball higher and have the better hang time and the distance, and we can get down there and have better chance to cover it without as much space.
Okay. Interesting. I don't think a lot of people think of that kind of stuff, right? It's just kick it, right?
Exactly
it's
right.
As simple as a lot of folks that are listening right now are sitting here that are golfers are going, well, of course. Yeah. It's all about the swing and everything being, the same every single time.
If any of those guys are available for some lessons, I can give them my phone number because I need some help with my golf game.
How about Cole Becker? We're going to have him on here in a few minutes.
He's got a great golf game.
Does he really?
He can drive. You know what? You watch him kick off,
right?
And he can power the ball through the back of the end zone. You should see him get out there with a driver in his hands. It's the same type of reaction. Why are
you saying this and he's shaking his head no, though? I want to understand
he's modest.
He's modest? Is that what it is? But you look at what Cole's done this season, and, he's been very solid all season long.
He's done a fantastic job.
2 field goals, I think.
One field goal. One field goal, one extra point.
There you go. He's had 2 total misses all season long.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you seen growth from him?
100%. Taking a big step forward, and we go back to the process, right?
Right.
So it's difficult when you arrive in June and within 90 days you're out there on the field performing in front of 50, 60, 70,000 people, right? And right now you're seeing it with Trent. We're asking him. He showed up in August,
right?
And he's performing right now. But you see a major jump with these guys from year 1 to year 2 because you go through the fire, you understand, as you go through 12-game season. Okay. This part of the process worked really well for me on a day-to-day basis, how I prepare for a Tuesday, for a Wednesday, a Thursday, a Friday, and then what it looks like in pregame. Where, when you first get here, a lot of times it changes day to day, week to week what they're doing, and then they figure out as they get those repetitions, okay, this is how I need to approach this day, this is how I approach this day, this is how I approach this day, and then set yourself up to go out and perform at your best on Saturday. And I think what you're seeing right now is the fruits of the labor that Cole put in the springtime, knew how to handle himself in the summer and into fall camp where it was a slow build, by design, so that by the time we get to September, October, November, we're playing our best football and we're performing out there when it really counts, not wasting all of our bullets. And we go out and had a great fall camp, but by the time game 3, game 4, game 5 roll out, I'm fatigued. I can't perform at the best level. We're seeing that right now, and he's done a fantastic job.
Why do kickers get a bad rap in terms of being different in football? You hear that kind of thing all the time. Kickers they're a different breed.
Why
do they get a bad rap like that?
I'll say this. I think that stereotype a lot of times fits.
Yeah.
When I personally go out and recruit kickers and punters, for the most part, I recruit personalities.
Okay.
You know, we'll pull together a number of guys who have the requisite talent, who have the ability to perform at this level, and then I want a personality that I can mesh with, and somebody that I think can grow and develop and mesh with me on a personal level. Because, you know, sometimes there are weird guys. And I don't know why. You know what? When I was in college and I played, I always roomed with kickers.
Oh, did you really?
And long snappers. I wasn't a kicker myself.
Right.
But, you know, I lived with two, like my last 4 years in college. My first year I roomed with a long snapper.
Okay.
Some of them were a little bit different.
Yeah.
I don't want the guy that's so far out there we can't get, you know. I want the guy I can go, you know, play golf with, you know, and hang out with and have him over to my house and we have a great time and it feels normal and, you know, they can hang out with my son and all that stuff. So,
you know what? I think sometimes it is. I think back to Mason Crosby. I got here, and Gary and I have talked about this many times. When I got here in 2004, you had Mason Crosby and John Torp. Both were All-American caliber guys, and Mason's gone on to a phenomenal NFL career, leading scorer all time for the Green Bay Packers. Mason was a football player first.
Yes.
And then he became a kicker. Do you think that plays into it sometimes?
Cole Becker has at least 2 tackles in his career, 3 tackles in his career.
He knows.
He's a football player.
He
will get
knows.
down. And if you watched Trent Carrizosa last week was not his best game punting. We all know that. He knows that. He took it personally that he didn't hit the punts that he wanted.
Okay.
But what you saw on every single one of those reps was him going down and getting involved.
Yes.
And he on one of them he was down there hitting the pile late, and then he made the tackle on a different one.
Yes,
he is a football player. And people don't know this. He was an offensive and defensive lineman in high school. He's a big boy now. He's 6'4", 240.
Yes.
He's 6'4", 240.
Yes.
He can get down there.
Is he that tall?
Oh, yeah, he's a big dude.
Is he really?
I might be giving him an inch. Am I giving him an inch? Maybe. Okay. But to me, everybody's like 6'7", okay? So,
right.
But no, he'll get down there and he'll get involved. He played offensive and defensive line in high school. And, you know, I like to recruit guys that played other sports. He played basketball.
Right.
Trent played offensive and defensive line. Cameron Warchuk was the starting center for 4 years at Norco High School and weighed 280 pounds when he did it. Dropped. He's down to 230 now. Yeah. But I like guys that have played other positions, played other sports. It goes back to the weirdo conversation, right?
Yes,
you know, if you get into that myopic world of this is all I do and this is just it can kind of eat you up. But if you can play other sports, you have other talents, you've seen other things, you know,
there you go.
It allows. Hey, Trent hit a bad punt. But he went down there and I'll go make a tackle.
Yeah.
Right?
He made up for it.
I love that.
Right.
I love that.
How have we been from a coverage standpoint? You've been happy there?
Tauren Pittman is playing at an extremely high level.
We call his name nonstop on special teams.
And it's everything.
Yeah.
And you want to know what it is? It's a testament to how he approached his business in the offseason because he had the best summer conditioning that he's had since he's been here, and it's not even close.
Awesome.
He had the best winter he's had since he's been here, and it's not even close. He's doing things right off the field and in his preparation and in his process, and you watch him in practice. He is a leader. But, I mean, he's affecting the game on field goal block. He's affecting the game on punt. He's affecting the game on punt return. He's out there on kickoff. He has done a phenomenal job, and he's being rewarded for it, right? He's making tackles. He's affecting the game. I love – and it's not by accident. It's not just, hey, he's a really tall, fast, athletic individual who's out there and he's able to make plays on talent alone. He's had that the whole time he's been here, and he's been productive. But he changed the way he approaches his business and everything. He's making great choices. He's preparing differently, and now you're seeing it.
It's amazing how that preparation sets the tone for what you do on the field.
100%.
Well, the special teams have been pretty darn good this season. Good luck this weekend against the Beavers.
Thank you very much.
All right, Chris Ryder, the special teams coordinator for the University of Colorado. See, they don't just kick it, hold it, or rather catch it and kick it. There's more to it than that. We're going to talk to the guy that's been outstanding this season as a kicker for the Buffaloes, Cole Becker. He'll join us on our student-athlete segment coming up next. This is Colorado football from their field. Back one final time, players segment here on Buffs Primetime at the Post Chicken and Beer in downtown Boulder. Cole Becker, the kicker for the Buffaloes. He is 6 of 7. I was wrong. I said you missed 2. You're 6 of 7 on field goals, 9 of 10 on PATs this season. Had a nice sophomore campaign. You feel good while you're kicking right now?
Yeah, I feel really good, especially with the progression that we've seen from last year, from starting like 0-3 and having a really rough start to really seeing the difference of like putting in the work in the off season and preparing for the season ahead of you.
You got here. He was ranked the #1 kicker in America coming out of high school. You got here, and you start out 0-3. That's got to be a tough mental struggle for you, I would think, at that point, right?
100%. Especially like you always want to make every kick, but especially the first one and the second one, like those ones really get to your head, and you're like, can I actually do this? And that Arizona State game, after that third miss, and then finally getting one under my belt, kind of grew the confidence and really helped the rest of the season.
I bet. Is your sport, I mean, obviously you got to have a big leg, right? You got to have that. Is it mainly mental, though, what you do?
I would say it's almost completely mental.
Really?
I mean, you obviously have to have the physical attributes to be able to do the job. But once you're able to do the job, the thing that sets you apart is being able to miss and come back from it, or make and not get too high, like kind of not ride your highs too high and your lows too low. It's more about how you can stay consistent no matter what's going on.
When I was a college basketball player, like when I let go of the ball, I knew if it was going in or not. Right?
Oh, yeah.
I know that quarterbacks or pitchers talk about when they let go, they know if they've made the right throw. As soon as you strike the ball, do you know?
100%.
Really?
Yeah, I played basketball too, actually.
Oh, because you know.
Same way, shooting three, like comes
Yeah.
off your hand, you're like, that's a make. Same thing with the kicking. You hit it and you're like, that's in or that's out.
What's the key when you're lining up? What's the key to when you make contact?
It's definitely just where you hit the ball. So obviously you have the snap, you have the hold, but granted that those are good, it's really about finding that sweet spot of the football and hitting it exactly how you want it.
Okay. Where are you? And I'm always fascinated by this. A lot of people have gone out and tried to kick before. Right?
Oh,
you want to really feel foolish? Go out and have somebody hold a ball and try and kick it.
Yeah.
It's crazy how foolish you can look. Where exactly are you? Is it on the inside of the toe, on the end of your toe? Where exactly are you making contact with?
Yeah, so if you turn your foot over, you look at the top of it, it's that big bone that runs down the inside. You want to hit right about in the middle of that bone. It's the sweet spot. So you're kind of turning your foot over into the kick.
How did you get into this?
Family friend named Mike Black, who's a talent spotter for ESPN now.
Right.
He kicked at Boise State a number of years ago. And growing up, I played every sport imaginable except football.
Right.
Big into soccer and basketball mostly. And he saw the talent I had in soccer, and he took me out and showed me and my buddy how to kick a football. And
how old were you when that happened?
12, I think.
You're 12. Okay,
Yeah.
so what is that? A seventh grader, maybe?
Yeah, something like
along
that.
those lines.
Yeah. He actually sent me the video of it a couple days ago.
Oh, did
so
he?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But,
kind of embarrassing at this point.
Oh, yeah. But that was the first day, and then it took me about a year or two to really get into football.
Okay.
Kept playing soccer, basketball, all those other things. And then freshman year of high school, I got into football.
When did you know you had a big leg?
I think I kind of always knew.
Right.
I was always the kid in soccer that took the free kicks and the corner
right.
kicks and the one that would try and hit the ball far. So I kind of always knew, but I never really connected the dots between that and football.
Where would you be comfortable, distance-wise, taking a kick?
It definitely changes week to week, and
Sure.
we kind of judge it based on the warm-up. But these past few weeks, I've been in the 58 to 60 range.
Okay, get in that range. All right, which is a heck of a kick.
Yeah.
And what the longest you've made here is at 56?
56, Utah
56.
game.
I remember that last year.
Yeah.
That's right. Have you ever had any interaction with Mason Crosby?
I've talked to him a couple times,
Have you?
and I'm still looking forward to meeting him. He's been in town a couple times, but we haven't been able to connect. But I'm looking forward to meeting him, and he's provided me some interesting advice, and just looking forward to getting to talk to him.
No, he was a great player here. And you think of yourself as more than just a kicker, right? I mean, if you're a football player.
I'm a football player. Yeah. So
tell me, why and you and I've talked a number of times, you're a normal guy. Why do people think kickers are weird?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I would probably say because we are.
Present company, not so much. But, there are some different ones out there. Mason was it. Cole certainly. You're having a great season and a great career here in Colorado.
I appreciate
Keep up the
it.
good work.
Thank you.
Let's hear it for Cole Becker, kicker for your Colorado Buffaloes. As the Buffs get set to take out the Beavers of Oregon State on Saturday in Corvallis. Gary and I are going to hit the air at 4 o'clock. It's a 6 o'clock kickoff between the Buffs and the Beavers. As we wrap it up today, this has been Colorado Football from Learfield.